I don't think we're on. Are we on now? There we go. Welcome everybody to the County Commission meeting today, June 6th. I'd like to recognize above all the hit anniversary of the D-Day invasion and thank those who, brave men who fought so long ago and sacrificed their lives and their opportunities to save this country and to save the world in many ways. So we thank them and we honor them on this day and every day, but especially this anniversary of D-Day. Our first item here is our invocation by Pastor Jake Dufall from the Westside Baptist Church and member of the Interfaith Council. Pastor?
Let's go ahead and open in a word of prayer.
Thank you.
Lord, we come before you this afternoon and we thank you for the country that we have the privilege of living in. And we do thank you for the men and women who have sacrificed and continue to sacrifice for the freedoms of our country. We ask that you would watch over and protect those who serve in our armed forces right now. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to live in such a beautiful community. And we're thankful that you are growing this community, and we acknowledge that with that comes opportunities and also difficulties. And so I pray for our leaders and for our commissioners today that you would give them wisdom and give them direction, help them to lead with courage. Lord, I pray that you would help this meeting to go smoothly and that would bring honor to you and that would be a help to our community. Lord, we thank you that there's so much hope that you give to us in your word. And so I pray that it would be your word that we would found our community and the principles of our community upon. We lift up all this to you in the name of our Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Pastor. Thank you. We'll now have our Pledge of Allegiance by Brady Frank of the Marine Corps League. Brady.
Name is Brady Frank, and I would humbly request before we give the Pledge of Allegiance for a moment of silence for our brothers, fathers, grandfathers, and great-grandfathers who stormed the beaches of Normandy, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
So the Marine Corps League is a veteran service organization that helps those who are Marines or FMF corpsmen, and now actually all those Navy personnel that are FMF are now able to join the league. I'm a civilian, an associate member in good standing, and they do allow civilians. If you want to join us, it's fairly easy. You just come find me and we get you to a meeting. So please stand and face the flag. If you're a veteran, please salute. If civilian, please put your hand over your heart and repeat the pledge after me. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Brady. We appreciate being here. As we move into the agenda, just want to acknowledge we had said that there was going to be we were going to have 3 weeks or 3 commission meetings where we were not going to be able to have public comment due to other things. At the time we said that, which is true, we did not foresee that there was going to be a special election tonight, which we all have to get off to, and most of the people that had signed up for public comment requested the same thing since they also have to be to the special election this evening. So we're going to have to forego that, but we will resume public comment again next meeting. And all of those that had signed up have been notified, and we just moved them to the next one. For the first item is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a means of expediting the consideration of routine matters. If a commissioner requests that items be removed from the consent agenda, those items are placed at the beginning of the regular agenda. Other than requests to remove items, a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda is not debatable.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda of the following items. A, consideration of auditor-approved claims for payments for May 17th, 2023 through June 6th, 2023. B, consideration of regular commission meeting minutes of May 16th, 2023. C, consideration of administrative adjustments, real property. D, consideration of administrative adjustments, personal property. E, consideration of applications for property tax abatements. F, acknowledgement of publishing notice of adoption of ordinance number 2023-1234-0, published on Sunday, May 21st, 2023. G, consideration of renewal of the Vitra contract. H, consideration of court security agreement. And item I, consideration of roadway dedication final plat map, 800 North Circle near New Harmony. And that is the items in the consent agenda, and that's my motion.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. Now we move to the regular agenda. We'd also like to recognize Eric Clark, our county attorney, who is filling in for one of his deputies who's normally here, but welcome, Eric. We're glad to have the honcho here with us. First item on the agenda is item number 1, Fair Board Member Recognition. Susie Lafayette.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to take a few minutes. We have 3 board members that from the county fair who are retiring. With them, they bring a total of 80 years of experience to the county
80
fair.
years.
So we're really sad that they're leaving us. So I just want to recognize them. I don't know, I saw Sheila, but our first one was Miriam Force. She's worked at Utah State University Extension for 25 years as a staff assistant, where she's helped in numerous programs and camps, including 4-H robotics, farm field days, the livestock show, and the Color Country Natural Resource Camp. Her first Washington County Fair was in 1997, where she helped with fair prep, intake, and the Animal Education Center. And one of her star qualities is learning new things on the fly, and in 2023, she became an expert sheep shearing judge. So we're going to miss Miriam. She retired from the Extension office a couple of weeks ago. Rick Heffelbauer, and I don't think he's here either. Rick Heffelbauer has worked with the Extension office as well for 23 years as the horticulture agent. He's worked with fruit and vegetable producers, integrated pest management, water conservation, and has been a fair board member since 2000. He has authored or been a contributing author to 12 referred journal articles, and he served also as the Washington County Extension Director from 2004 to 2017. And he is retiring at the end of this month, and we're sad to see him go as well. And our final one is Miss Sheila Dutton, and I know she's here. I'm gonna have you come up, Sheila. Let me tell you a little bit about Sheila. Sheila was raised in Hurricane, married Kelly Dutton after she graduated in June 10th, 1960. She has 13 children, and she's probably been to every Washington County fair for the last 80 years. But I don't know how that's possible since you're only 30, right? She taught 4-H for years and has helped her 13 children enter exhibits into the fair. She has loved helping with the literary arts at the fair for the past 18 years. Sheila's influence extends beyond her own 13 children to her 66 grandchildren and also her 66 great-grandchildren. She serves the long-term residents of Hurricane, the new residents, and many visitors in every capacity. Her service is the epitome of a person who serves because she loves people, and we love Sheila, and we're going to miss her.
Wow.
I'd just like to comment, we sure appreciate it. I just want to say we sure appreciate all Susie does, and it's just, that there's no committee, nothing. Everything we do, we've got all these other wonderful people helping, right?
And her sister Roxy is here, and she's actually going to be taking over for Sheila for literary arts. So it'll stay in the family, but we just want to present Sheila with this plaque for all of her years of
That's very
service.
nice. That's great.
Okay. If I could mention, our sister Kay started this in 97, but when there wasn't a literary arts in the fair.
Wow.
Now, I learned something, I think it was last year. You told me that you have entry from some of the folks that are at purgatory, right? People enter and,
Yeah.
Except for Colby.
Sheila is really good about making sure that those that are in our Purgatory Correction Facility are participants of the Washington County Fair. So she's really good about, she'll even go and pick all of the literary arts. Oh, they bring them to her now, but she's really good about doing that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, let us take a picture.
Oh, hey, look, we're matching. We'll get the commissioners to come in.
That's fantastic. Hold on.
Thank you folks for what you're doing.
You get it? You got it? Okay, thank you.
That is awesome. Thank you again. Next item is the consideration of purchase requests. Ray from our clerk auditor's office.
All right. The first one I have here is for emergency services. This is for a hazmat tanker simulator. It's a mobile training prop. This is grant funded and it's for $110,000. And this will be a Hurricane Valley Fire asset, although it will be used countywide. The next one is for tourism. We previously brought a requisition to the commission that was approved for $21,250 for media production. It turned out that we needed to include some more services and split the budget. So we've redone the PO for this requisition for $29,804.88. The next one is for a search engine optimization for ZionNationalPark.com. This is a blanket PO that will be paid monthly for the rest of the year. This is for $32,000. Next one is for our noxious weeds department. This is for various noxious weed supplies, spray, guns, whatever. This is for $27,452.83. Next one is for our roads department. This is for an oscillator walk and roll packer. This is for $41,000. The next one is for road base, and this is for approximately 1.25 miles of the landfill road. This is for $22,942.08. The next one is for the fair. This is for various rental equipment. There was rental equipment used generally throughout the facility during the fair. Equipment specifically used for the concert and equipment used specifically for the demolition derby. And the total of this one is $18,710.84. The next one is for Legacy Park. This is for replacement picnic tables. We moved the old wood ones are being moved to the Shooting Sports Park, so these are replacements there. And we need to add additional event chairs. And to go with that, we need event chair dollies. And this is a total of $22,618.82.
So Ray, when you say that the old tables are wooden and broken up are being moved to
They're
the
not
Shooting Sports
broken,
Park,
they're
not as
just-
target practice?
No, not target practice.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
They'll be used for a little bit of lounging, maybe. The next one is for painting and drywall repairs in the Harmony and Grafton buildings. This is for $23,265. The next one is for the sheriff's office. This is for 6 new vehicles that are 2023 Ford F-150s and 1 Ford Transit van. And we also have $150,500 credit or trade-in. Those are the trade-in credits. And then we have an outstanding credit of $60,000 which brings our total to $164,014. And the final one is this is on our fleet program. And so we'll be buying 7 2023 Ford F-150s, trading in 7 22 Ford F-150s, and using an outstanding credit of $12,600 for a total of 0. And unless anybody has any questions, that is all I have.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve those purchase requests as explained by Ray.
And I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Motion passes. Ray, I think that from now on, though, you should not bring anything that you need to be able to explain exactly what a walk and roll packer is for the
Oh.
road department. I think that would be
I
beneficial
have
to
a
the
picture
public
if
at
you want to
large.
see it. I made him explain it to me.
Ron is raising his hand in the back, our public works director, and he says he knows, but Ron, I figured you probably would. I would just like to know if Ray could simulate or.
I can, I have it.
Thank you very much, Ray, I appreciate it. All right, item number 3 is consideration of proclamation number 2023-29, a proclamation declaring Washington County as America's county. Commissioner Iverson.
Well, just like to speak to it. All of us are going to speak to this a little bit. Hopefully you've picked up about how excited we are about Liberty Village coming to Hurricane, and this Liberty Week that we are going to start around the 4th of July. Remind me, I always remember, is it the 26th of June that we kick it off? And of course, we're going to have this this very substantial exhibit display here in this building, and there's going to be a lot of other fantastic events surrounding that. And so over the last few months, we've talked as commissioners, our desire to really put into writing our thoughts and feelings about this great country. And there's so many things right now, if you read the news, things that divide us, and yet this nation has been blessed and has a beautiful history that we should be celebrating. And so it was our goal, all three of us participated in the writing of this document that we're going to read here in a few minutes. And then we turned it over to to Devin Snow to actually put it together, and he did a fantastic job at capturing all of our voices in it. But really it's this idea that Washington County is declaring itself as America's county, that it's not just going to be this 1 week that we have coming up, but going forward, we want our citizens and our friends that come here and visit to celebrate the goodness and the greatness of this nation with us. And so we have Dennis Levitt and here and others to speak a little bit to it, but I'll also turn the time back over to you as well, as we have a little bit of discussion before we read this. So.
Commissioner Alquist.
Well, certainly as we've all contributed, and it's fun to read it because I can say, okay, that sounds like Victor. Okay, that sounds like Adam. Okay, I know that was mine. You know, I mean, we can all say that about each other, and I really am proud of this fact that I hope that it sends a message to the other 3,000 plus counties of what America really is and how we're striving to make that known and that we've put it to words. And granted, you can probably say, oh yeah, that's in the Bill of Rights, or that's here. We didn't plagiarize anything, but you can see the concepts that we brought forth in there. There's a place where you're going to hear words that we talk about patriotism and freedom and fairness and liberty. And we talk about God-given rights, and we talk about those things which may sound repetitive, but they're really at the heart of what we believe. Now, today's been an interesting day. We have met with all the mayors on crime and gangs in particular. We have met with the Children's Justice Center about youth and they're being abused and how we're helping them to get through that. We've had meetings on water. We've had meetings on all kinds of things today. It's been a broad day, but one thing that my comments reflect on is that some of the things that we're facing in the county have come here from other places, that maybe they've tried and failed there and they want to see if they can increase their failed ideas here. So I just want to say, don't move here if your intent is to take away our freedoms. Don't move here if you're going to perpetrate crime on any of our citizens. Don't move here if you have failed ideas that failed somewhere else or will yet fail somewhere else. Don't come here if you're going to disrespect our law enforcement or first responders. Absolutely do not move here if you're going to disrespect our local or U.S. history. Don't move here if you are not going to help build Dixie, but rather tear down. Don't move here if you're not willing to sacrifice and work hard. Don't move here if you're going to disgrace our flag. Don't move here if you're going to disrespect our original Paiute residents and those who are here before us. And don't move here if you're going to show your biases or discriminations against anybody or their beliefs or thoughts here. And above all, don't move here if you're not going to recognize the principles of the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights and every amendment thereafter, because that's the foundation. And we want to stress that in this proclamation as well as every single word that's in it. So otherwise, move here. Be free.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Respect the land, respect our people, respect our processes that are well over a century and a half old, and let us progress and grow together, but at the same time build upon the foundation we already have.
Well said. Yeah, I don't need to repeat any of that from either of you. Good comments. Just know that the purpose of doing this for us was that we wanted to make sure that the world knows, that America knows, that Utah, the rest of Utah knows that Washington County will forever be a beacon of freedom and of liberty for this state. And you can, if you want to know what it's like to live in a place that is still free, that you need to look here and use us as an example, and then take that back somewhere else to replicate that idea, and continue, make sure that we continue to spread freedom around the world.
Do we want to allow Dennis Levitt to come up?
I was about to get to that. So
Awesome.
Dennis Levitt with United We Pledge. If you want to come up and say a few words, we've worked very close. We love the mission of United We Pledge, which is a nonpartisan, just trying to help people understand the foundation of America and what freedom really is. So Dennis?
And before Dennis speaks, Mr. Chairman, Dennis has been involved in this idea of America's County. Now, Dennis didn't write this. In fact, I don't know if he's read it yet, so he's kind of
I'm
he's probably
anxious to hear it from you
a
all.
little nervous, what we came up with. But it's just been outstanding, this idea, and we're excited about Liberty Week and all of the events that you and your team have been organizing as we come forward this month, the end of this month. 3 weeks away, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's showtime.
Thank you. It's really not about us or our team. It's about all of the people here. I was fortunate enough to grow up here in St. George. I always thought of it like Opie's kind of community where he grew up. But I always felt like I grew up in Mayberry. I've always felt like St. George and Washington County and the surrounding towns have always been America's county, and I've been grateful and blessed to be able to enjoy that spirit throughout my life. And I'm like you. I just want that spirit to carry on, and we want to do everything that we can. None of us can do anything more than we have resources or talents or skills or ability. We all just do our very best in the station and situation and circumstances that we're in. That's where United We Pledge is at currently. We're not trying to do anything other than bring people together, lift where we stand, and make our community the very best that we can. But wholeheartedly, we stand behind an idea to publicly declare that this ought to be America's county, and that we ought to treat it as America's county, and we ought to do everything we can to promulgate that idea specifically amongst the rising generation. I would say that we'll give you our commitment as an organization that will be as supportive and promote as hard as we can and lift our voice as loud as we can, not just from June 26th to July 4th this year, but we'll do it every year thereafter. We'll do it during Constitution Week and during the month that the state of Utah has just declared as Founders and Constitution Month. We'll do it leading into the Bill of Rights celebration and every other celebration that there is. We'll do it in schools, through educational programs, to We're on your side, and I'm genuinely honored to be led by men who are really courageous enough to make a stand like this. I don't think this kind of thing is being done in many counties around this great nation of ours, and I'm grateful for all that's being done from a host of people who are linking arms trying to make it happen. Can I be indulged to read one other quote from John
Sure.
Adams? Is that okay? I want to be cognizant of time. There are many people who make oaths that they'll defend the Constitution from enemies foreign and domestic. I've thought about that some. We certainly understand the need to protect from foreign entities, but the whole domestic thing has caused me some pause. Then there's this quote from John Adams: "We have no government armed with power capable of contending with human passions unbridled by morality and religion. Greed, ambition, revenge, or gallantry would break the strongest cords of our Constitution as a whale goes through a net. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." Our duty and our responsibility is to raise a generation that preserves and protects all the things you're talking about. What does the Constitution need right now? The Constitution needs Dennis Levitt to repent. It needs Dennis Levitt to become a better man than he was yesterday. It needs Dennis Levitt to be everything he can be to be morally and just. The problem with our Constitution is not the Constitution. Never has been. The problem with our Constitution is people who should lead it and protect it internally, and the only person I can protect it internally from is me, and that's all we can each individually do. So United We Pledge will pledge everything to promote in every way goodness in this county, and we will, with dignity and honor and grace, wave this county's banner the best we can, welcoming everyone who wants to come and join with us in this. So thank you again for your efforts. We're just happy and proud to be a part of and live in this great little area of the world.
Perfectly said.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
And Chair, before you read it, I look at this as our Declaration of Independence, this day. We had our original Declaration of Independence to show what it meant to be under the thumb of another power. But Dennis, you're right. Our threat is within. And as long as we are staying together, no threat from without will defeat us. This as our Declaration of Independence from what? From all those who would take away from America, from all those who would destroy the law of the land, the Constitution, and other laws that have been formed. Independence from those who would shackle us. I don't want to be under the burden of every day waking up and wondering if I won't be free that day. And so that's part of our declaration is, and proclamation. And no other county is doing it that we know of. It's probably making them mad that they didn't think of it because there's good county people all over.
Yeah, really
But
are.
we're plowing the new field because we feel strongly about it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So with that, I will read the proclamation now. It says, a proclamation declaring Washington County as America's county on this day, June 6th, 2023. Whereas the United States is a promised and blessed land preserved as a haven for freedom and peace where liberty can blossom and thrive for those willing to support that cause. Whereas the foundation of freedom was constructed in small parts throughout the world over many centuries, true freedom is a uniquely American experiment. Whereas only in this great nation has the ideal of liberty, longed for by all mankind since the dawn of time, been established in an enduring and perpetual form. Whereas never before has a nation been as successful, peaceful, and prosperous as America since 1776. Whereas never before has a nation done more for the cause of global peace, prosperity, and liberty. Whereas those successes globally are directly attributable to the liberty of citizens of America. Whereas America quickly became the beacon to the world of how nations should be governed and how the natural state of people is to be free. Whereas the founders of this great nation were men and women willing to sacrifice all that they had, including their own lives if required, to establish that cause of peace. Whereas the early pioneers to the great state of Utah came to reclaim their right to practice their religion and to live in peace. whereas they long to maintain the freedoms granted by a young and fragile nation, whereas determined men and women were sent to Washington County in the furtherance of freedom in practical application and cooperative success of the state and region, whereas only those brave enough and strong enough stayed and survived in Utah's Dixie, whereas that history of courageous hard work and striving for independence in an unforgiving environment established a legacy of endurance and determination for the success of liberty in this land, whereas freedom, patriotism, and liberty have long been defended through courage and bravery in Utah's Dixie since inception, whereas the courage of our founding fathers was carried in the hearts of the early pioneers and still thrives in the hearts of new American patriots in Washington County today, whereas those ideals are fragile and under constant threat of destruction, whereas the nation and world need shining examples of liberty and of a responsible and limited government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Whereas with that passion, we declare that Washington County, Utah is America's county, the example of freedom in the land of liberty, that all who live in Utah's Dixie will collectively strive and fight for constitutional freedoms, that this land will be a beacon to the world of how a community thrives in liberty. Whereas Washington County, Utah proclaims the blessings of a democratic Republican form of government and individual freedoms protected by our U.S. Constitution. Whereas in these times of social confusion and division, let us work to build a more perfect union by celebrating what brings us together, not what divides us. Let us remember the divine truth that all mankind are created equal and endowed by their Creator with unalienable rights. Let us love our neighbors and care for one another so that a civil society and limited government will be the natural order of our county. Whereas we celebrate our national goal to work towards a more perfect union, let us remember the past so that we might understand ourselves. Let us use history as a teacher to learn divine truths. Let us celebrate the good by a recommitment to kindness and civility towards one another regardless of race or social background. Government and society must always be the framework to protect, not abuse, this self-evident truth. Whereas we remember and celebrate the Paiute Nation, whose family fires first made this place a home since before recorded history, and who were the first in our county to believe in individual freedom, and whose descendants are our friends and neighbors. Whereas we give thanks for the divine wisdom that rested upon the founders of this modern American nation to guide them to establish the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Whereas with gratitude we remember the sacrifice of the pioneers whose hard work and sacrifice laid the foundation for the prosperity and opportunities of today. Whereas we salute all our sons and daughters who in their youth took up arms to defend and protect peace against the never-ending waves of tyranny. Whereas we support those in our community who have chosen a career as a first responder to keep our county a safe place where criminal behavior is not tolerated. Whereas principles of democracy embodied in the Republic of the United States dictate a continued vigilance to maintain liberty, commerce, justice, and basic human rights. Whereas the words "we the people" are just as viable and effective today. Whereas the flag of the United States is a symbol of all that is right and achievable in a free society, and citizens have the right to singularly display it. Whereas personal freedom is reinforced and protected by a strong military and law enforcement. Whereas family is the basic fabric of strong community and national achievement. Whereas the foundation of America is referred to by the founders is based on a belief and homage to the overseeing eye and hand of deity. Whereas we have respect for those who first inhabited the land. Whereas we maintain a recognition of the intrinsic goodness of Americans and their cause. Whereas all are welcome to this free and inviting land. Whereas Americans in business are hardworking, innovative, and fair. Whereas the words "in God we trust" are taken seriously here. Whereas patriots of America are needed in every county, city, town, and household. Whereas all institutions of education, public and private, must demonstrate a dedication to achieving the principles of Americanism. Now therefore we, the County Commissioners of Washington County, hereby declare and proclaim all of Washington County as America's county, with a perpetual commitment to stand by the principles of the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Utah, the Bill of Rights, and the principles of American government. We do this to preserve the God-given rights, as referenced in the Declaration of Independence, to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thank you very much. I think that was my motion.
Oh, and I'll second that motion, and I appreciate you reading that. That, like we said, it was all three of us contributing, so it did come out a little longer, but I think it worked and it was beautiful. Thank you. I'll second that motion.
We have a motion, a long motion, and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Motion passes. Item number 4, consideration of resolution number R 2023-3129, a resolution approving an agreement to host a summer concert at Legacy Park. Susie Lafayette. Okay,
Very good.
any questions for Susie?
No, seems pretty basic, right? Now, we're just, are we putting on the concert, or we're just
Hosting it.
renting the venue? How's this working out?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, so the gentleman that pays Johnny Cash was in Million Dollar Quartet at Tuacahn. His family is the Hale Center Theater out of Orem.
Okay, very good.
So they're all local Utah boys that are coming to put on this concert. Tickets will be $15 in the Grafton building, so it'll be air conditioned on August 8th.
Okay.
It's important on August 8th.
It is, we
Yes.
want that air conditioning.
Good.
Well,
Thank
very,
you.
very good. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2023-3129, a resolution approving an agreement to host a summer concert at Legacy Park.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 5, consideration of resolution R 2023-3130, a resolution approving an amendment to the Ironman host venue agreement to convert the May 2024 Ironman to a 70.3. We have a typo. I think it's not 104.6. It's 140.6. That's on our side. That's why I stopped. Brittany McMichael.
Hello. Yes, so it's pretty clear in the amendment, we're changing the race from a full distance Ironman to a 70.3. So the last 2 remaining years on the contract, 2024 and 2025, will be 70.3 North American Championship races.
Excellent.
Very good.
Mr. Chair, I move that on item number 5, that we approve resolution number R 2023-3130, an amendment to the Ironman host venue agreement to convert the May 2024 140.6 Ironman to a 70.3.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I'm sure there are many residents of this county that will be happy that the distance
Less
is a little
disruptive,
shorter,
yeah.
little less disruption. Well done, Brittany McMichael and your team. Item number 6, consideration of resolution R 2023-3131, a resolution approving an independent contractor agreement for a marketing manager to manage the social media accounts of the Greater Zion Convention and Tourism Office. Sarah Otto.
I'm a little concerned that you're looking for another marketing manager, so I think that's slightly a typo too, but unless you want to talk to me a little more, but we're fine.
I see where you're coming from, and I would share your same concern if I were in your shoes.
Thank you. We did not renew a contract with our our contractor of 3 years, who was over our social media. Just mutually agreed to part ways. Had the luck of finding a new gentleman to help us with that role, and that contract got him under contract. He is a native of this area and has every single hobby that you can possibly do here in his back pocket. Is passionate about this area, and will do a great job of kind of carrying our brand message through to the world. So it's a repeat of the contract that we had in place before, just a different name, different identity on there, a 1-year contract. Pretty straightforward as far as that goes. Questions?
Okay.
No, it seems like a good idea, and to have somebody local do it. opposed
Local
to-
and fresh blood in it,
Yeah.
and I think it's just one of those things you can experience burnout in pretty quickly on the social media world.
Very good. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt item 6, which is Resolution R-2023-3131, a resolution approving an independent contractor agreement for a marketing manager that is not Sarah, to manage the social media accounts for Greater Zion Convention and Tourism Office.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Thanks,
Aye.
gentlemen.
Motion passes. Thank you, Sarah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that on item 7, we table that item.
We have a motion to table item 7.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 We're not
Motion
ready
passes.
for it today.
Not quite ready for that one, if anybody saw the news today. Item number 8 is consideration of resolution number R 2023-3133, a resolution approving the execution of an interlocal cooperation agreement for election services between Washington County and Virgin Town. Eric Clark.
Commissioners, this is pretty routine, and we probably would have put this. Thanks. I'm supposed to swallow the mic, they said. We probably would have put this on the consent agenda, but the law actually requires that each of these have their own resolution. So this just puts Virgin under contract with the county to administer their election, just like we are with every other municipality. So that somehow that one just got missed.
Oh, okay. I'd like to acknowledge Melanie Applenapp here that could speak to it, but it's pretty simple and straightforward. So,
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve resolution number R 2023-3133, approving an execution of a interlocal cooperation agreement for election services between Washington County and Virgin Town.
I'll second that motion.
There we go. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 9 is consideration of our resolution R 2023-3134, a resolution approving a payoff of the bond for the Veo Fire Station. Also Eric Clark.
So this one, Commissioners, the Veo Fire Station is bonded for by I think it's Northwest, right? Yeah, the Northwestern Special Service District provides fire services up there. Gold Cross Ambulance would like to put an ambulance in there and lease space, but the bond documents were written in a way that doesn't allow that. Northwestern has the funds to pay off that bond early, and then they can immediately start making money off the lease, and we can have an ambulance in Veo, which is great. So but the way the bond was written, you guys just need to sign off on that before they can do it.
Okay. This is a good thing. By being able to do that, we'll have for those residents up Highway 18 and all the tourists and those that will be coming with the incoming mountain bike trails, ambulatory services, transport, and first responders are necessary up there. Right now it's a little bit of a drive, and so it's an area already covered by Gold Cross, but they've committed to stage an ambulance there and a crew full time. So we're excited for that, and this is a necessary step, and we're glad that there's money in the bank by Northwest to be able to pay that off. So that's even better.
This is a good thing, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2023-3134, resolution approving a payoff of the bond for the Veo Fire Station.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Item number 10 is consideration of resolution R 2023-3135, a resolution approving appraisal proposals required for the Warner Valley Land Exchange. Eric Clark again.
Thanks. I got all three of mine in a row.
Got
so
three in a
You
row.
guys have to hear me. Sorry. So, this is one where, from the mid 1990s, when the county kind of cut our desert tortoise deal with the feds on how we protect that animal, one of the things that the county committed to do was help the private property owners that have land in our desert reserve get that out. The county didn't commit to buy it, but we kind of help with any processing, right? And so Alan Carter has some land up in there that he would love to have the feds acquire. And so we've been working for several years on a land exchange where his land in the reserve, which is up by Green Springs, would be swapped out, so that would become BLM land. And then the water district would get land in Warner Valley that it needs, and Alan Carter would get cash from the water district. So it's kind of a three-way trade. And an important step in that process, before we can get to the next step, is we need to figure out what the values are to make sure that things line up. So this just approves the appraiser. To do this, we've already jumped through the federal hoops. So this appraiser is on the approved list to go out and do this work, and we're just asking you guys to do this so we can keep that project moving.
Well, this is a good thing.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. I think if everyone's been through this process for 20 plus years, they understand that we're getting closer and closer all the time. And at the same time, we've been able to manage those private property holdings, as you said, Eric, in a very effective way, because it avoided everyone else from having to go through the process of developing their land. And the ones that I always think of is, if anyone has ever shopped on River Road at Lowe's or Target or Michael's or any of the stores that are along there, that was a parcel that was freed up by this agreement. And there might be some negatives to it. I don't know where. I keep hearing a few of those rumors, but for the most part, the vast majority of the positives are that we struck this agreement to set this land aside so that other land could be free for private property rights and use. So therefore, with that long explanation, resolution number R 2023-3135, I move that we approve for the appraisal proposals required for the Warner Valley Land Exchange.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item number 11 is consideration of resolution number R 2023-3136, a resolution approving a comment letter regarding the BLM's conservation and landscape health proposed rule. I'll speak to this one for a second. If anybody in the public is bored enough to follow BLM proposed rules, this is a horrible one. We talked last commission meeting about the lunacy of proposing another national monument just to our south, but this is part and parcel with that. And Eric, you can chime in on some of the legal side, but the Federal Land Policy Management Act, or FLPMA, from 1976, guarantees and mandates that the Bureau of Land Management be managed for multiple use, that we can recreate, we can graze, we can hunt, we can mine, we can extract timber, minerals, ore from the ground. You can do certain things. It's protected by definition under federal law unless you have a permit to do something, or if there's roads that are already existing, you can go out and recreate all you want. You can't go out and just strip mine the place without a permit to do so, or cut timber on it. The problem is that the proposed rule, so it's conserved by definition unless there is a permitted use to do otherwise. The new proposed rule is that the Bureau of Land Management under this administration is going to consider conservation as a multiple use, even though Congress did not designate that in 1976, which means that they will sell leases to conserve land that can then be used for no other purpose. That is a horrible idea. It completely erodes anything that Congress tried to accomplish in FLPMA in 1976. It erodes our ability to try and maintain. 2/3 of this county is owned by the federal government. Over half of that is owned by the BLM. And so it just severely limits the ability to do anything extractive or use the land for anything other than to look at from a far distance. And is detrimental to our economy, it's detrimental to our uses, it's detrimental to the historic uses of this land since the first pioneers came here 170 years ago. They were using the land, and which far predates any BLM, but they were using the land, and now they're saying, no, conservation is right up there with every other use of that land. Personally, I think it's asinine to even propose this, so.
If I may, Commissioner, on this one, like, everything you said is absolutely right. And unfortunately, we're in an environment where certain administrations come in and they pass new rules knowing there's a high likelihood the courts are going to strike them down, but they pass them to get votes from a certain constituency, right? And we've seen a recent Supreme Court decision on the Waters of the U.S. stuff. This is really similar. Like this would fundamentally change the purpose of the Bureau of Land Management. And the likelihood that it gets held up in court isn't very high.
No.
But they get political points by saying, well, we're doing this. And it flies in the face of what Congress, like the president's supposed to execute or enforce the laws that Congress passes, right? It just flies in the face of that.
And it's to that point, since you brought it up, Eric, it's the selfish interest groups. Can you imagine if they're going to sell leases for conservation? They'll be able to raise money, billions of dollars a year, to buy up these conservation leases, which will exclude every other use on the land.
Yeah.
And so environmental groups and selfish interest groups would be the only owners of the leases of that land. Leases on BLM land typically last for 10 years before they have an option for renewal. And the current permit holder is the one who generally has the first right of refusal to renew on that. So, yeah, not only it fundamentally change the BLM, it would just fundamentally change hundreds of millions of acres of land across the western United States for a sole purpose of just don't ever touch it. Humans are the problem. If there weren't humans, everything would be better, which is how most of these people feel.
You know, Mr. Chairman, there's a couple other problems here, and you've both mentioned, you know, some of the concerns. Number one was in 1976 when we went to FLPMA. Basically, the federal government acknowledged that they would no longer try to liquidate BLM land as they had been previous to that time, but they would use it for what we know as multiple use. That was supposed to be the policy that was established. What this new policy wants to say is that no use is multiple use, which isn't true. The second point is the Wilderness Act. So environmentalists I'm an environmentalist. These wackadoodles that are back in Washington, D.C. trying to control everybody, they've been trying to get around this wilderness thing for a long time. So Congress, under the Wilderness Act, told everybody that they should go out and designate areas that were untouched by man. There's a definition to what wilderness is supposed to be, and establish wilderness and wilderness study areas. But ever since then, there's been this attempt to kind of go around that. There's been litigation and lawsuits and court cases that have ruled what wilderness should be. And I think this is, once again, we saw this under Obama with Salazar when he came out with what was called Order 3010, which was go out and re-inventory everything. This is another attempt to go out and basically lock lands up under a wilderness type status or a conservation status. They're just using a different word. So I think they're violating two substantial pieces of law by this initiative.
And the ability to use it as a marketing tool to fundraise, so they'll have funds to just do it again. And the sad thing is the citizens of the United States own that land. And it's kind of like somebody coming home and saying, hey, we finally bought a family car. You can take it to the beach, you can do this, and you can do that. Oh, but by the way, we'll consider one of the uses of the family car just keeping it in the garage. And that's a ridiculous thing to say that this is our land and we can't use it within the reasons that Chairman Snow mentioned. But anyway.
It's moronic. But, and rules are supposed to, they carry the force of law in many forms, but they're supposed to be a way to interpret what Congress said, and here's how the Congress, which they should never do, but they do say, now you can go ahead and create some rules to enforce this law that we just passed. And work on it, you know, that's why we have rules. This rule does not enforce the law, it completely changes the law. It's stupid. So anyway, this resolution allows us to put all of our very passionate thoughts into a comment letter.
We didn't express it exactly like that in the letter, but we
should,
wanted
though.
to.
Asinine, morons, and a few other wackadoodles, yes, and a few other very choice words.
Maybe we can send this back to. Maybe we ought to send this back to the legal department to rewrite.
Subject to some very poignant insults by Commissioner Snow, Almquist, and Iverson. Anyway, my motion is that we approve Resolution R 2023-3136, a resolution approving a comment letter regarding the BLM's conservation and landscape health proposed asinine rule.
Second.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item number 12 is consideration of Resolution R 2023-3137, a resolution approving a contract for the design of the Children's Justice Center expansion. Nicole, I don't think you're quite as fired up as we are right now. We'll turn to you on that one.
No, I get to speak about something really important to the county, and not that that wasn't important, but an exciting part of the county. If you don't mind, Chairman, if I could maybe combine number 12 and 13, it's sort of referencing the same thing, so you're comfortable with that?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So back in 2012, the Children's Justice Center was built. At the time, Watts Construction and MRW Design teamed up, and they built a building for the county at no charge. That building has been, unfortunately in a way, but glad that we have it, used tremendously throughout the years. And we have come to recognize that through COVID and different things that have happened and just the growth of the county, that we have a need to increase our mental health services. And again, I'm just going to step back for 1 second. I apologize, but our Children's Justice Center is just a child-friendly facility. It's really home-like feel, where children who have been victims of abuse or other crimes can begin the road to healing. So in case people are not familiar with that, it's a very important building for the county, and important work is done there. So anyways, so come to today, we recognize that we have a severe increase that needs to happen in the county, which will provide mental health services, additional mental health services, and expansion of it for children who have been victims of crime, and also for non-offending family members. We also offer services for them. And so with that being said, Watts and MRW Design has approached the county, and they would like to donate once again. They are going to be willing to give their services, architectural and construction side of things, their services basically at cost. And the county is thrilled that once again we have such a great community that has really stepped forward and been willing to sacrifice their times and talent for the children of our county and the future generations. So with Eric Clark being here today, I don't know if before I ask for what the recommendation is, that maybe you want to say anything, if I've missed anything on, he's over the Children's Justice Center, and just didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
I think you said it really well. I would like to publicly thank the commissioners for supporting us in this one. We wouldn't need this expansion if we were still just doing interviews of the kiddos, but it's really hard to watch these kids come in and get interviewed by law enforcement so that we can go after the people that are abusing them, and then watch them walk right out the door. And a lot of times they're in situations where they don't have other services. And so this is going to allow us to better provide mental health and medical services to those kiddos. And it's just a need. It's a great investment in the future of our community. And I'd like to thank you guys for being on board with this.
So what my ask is today is that we just approve these agreements based on subject to legal review. There's just a couple of extra things we need to work out with those.
It really is. It's great to see the community step up. These kids have seen, witnessed, or been the victims themselves of some of the most horrific things that any human being would ever experience, and it should just, children should never be subjected to that. And so the ways that we can help, and I'm glad to see these two firms step up and see how they can help as a community to help these children and hopefully heal.
Mr. Chair, since we all are part of the CJC, but since I'm assigned there, I've learned a lot in the last 4.5 years about what affects these kids and how they're really left without help in situations they don't understand. And most people will agree that the human brain doesn't really develop and determine what consequences to actions are until they're 25. And the reverse is also true, is that they don't understand the consequences of being abused and until much later in life sometimes. And we all have heard of people that come out and say when they're 60 or 70 years old and struggling that they were abused as a child. And so even at that point, grappling with that is hard. The hardest part, though, today was a bit of information that I learned, and I'll share. There's a term, it's an acronym, Victim of Crime Act, VOCA, which was when somebody would be incarcerated. And Eric, if I'm not using the right words, that there would be fines and penalties and payments and things like that that would go into a fund that would then be returned through the VOCA grants to various groups, like a Children's Justice Center and others, to use those funds to operate. So indeed, the criminal was helping to pay for the victim's help. However, because across the nation, judges, COVID plays into it. Less and less perpetrators of these crimes have been jailed or fined. And so VOCA money, ironically, the crime has not ceased, but the money is drying up. And again, this year we learned that the rate of payment to our local CJC will be cut by 40% because the money is just not there. Well, if you still have a demand or a need, where do you get the money to operate? The states have been asked to step up, the county's been asked to step up. Well, that's taxpayer dollars now, not criminal dollars. So it's really hard to wrap our minds around this, but we still need to care for these kids, and for the great donations and others that are willing to step forward to care for it, kudos to them. I'd like to make a motion if you're ready.
Yes, please. Well said.
We're combining items 12 and 13 for the record since they are parallel. So I move that we approve resolution number R 2023-3137, a resolution approving a contract for the design of the Children's Justice Center expansion, and resolution 2023-3138, approving a construction contract for the Children's Justice Center expansion.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman, subject to legal review.
Second.
We have a motion on both resolutions and a second on both resolutions subject to legal review. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And motions pass, I guess. And with that, that concludes our agenda. Meetings are rebroadcast daily on TDS cable channels 22 and 108 at 10, 2, and 5:30, and available on youtube.com/community education channel. Thank you all for coming.